What is going on, everybody? It is Saturday. That means we've got our guest today. I am filibustering because you never know if it takes 2 seconds or 20 seconds for the live stream to get recording, right? You know what I mean? So if you guys are hearing this, you know what to do. Share the space or share the live stream wherever you're at, whether you're on YouTube, X, it does not matter. It looks like we are currently live on almost everything right now. I love it. I think it's time to start the show. What do you say, Kenton?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, you guys, as we know, we always do the intro first. So for those who do not know, THORChain is the world's leading Bitcoin DEX. You can swap Bitcoin with 10 different blockchains across 40 different pools without using bridges or wrap tokens. Check it out at swap.thorchain.org. One more time, swap.thorchain.org. Anyone in the world can use THORChain. There is no account to open. There's no KYC required. And THORChain has two tokens, Rune and TCY. The fees for swapping on THORChain are paid in Rune, and that's where the yield comes from. The fees are deducted from the swap, so you don't need to own Rune to trade on THORChain. Pretty cool. 10% as well of the protocol's revenue goes to TCY token holders. Remember to stake the TCY tokens in order to collect the yield. There are no inflationary block rewards, therefore the yield is real money paid by real users. Rune is also deflationary as 5% of the revenue is burned. THORChain is a full layer 1 with the ability to create smart contracts on it, similar to Ethereum. The app layer is being developed by Regira. If you need help with THORChain in general, join the THORChain community Discord and Telegram group. Links for those are on thorchain.org, thorchain.org. Guys, please follow THORChain on Facebook and Instagram, THORChain Contact on TikTok. We need at least 1,000 followers to live stream on those platforms. And by the way, Kenton, I heard a rumor yesterday that actually is no longer the requirement, but I did not have time to verify it for myself. So maybe we might be good there, but that's just a rumor. Who knows? And always remember, guys, this podcast is for informational and educational purpose only and does not constitute financial advice or legal advice or any advice whatsoever. You guys, it is time to start the show. I'm super excited. We've got a great team here. But before we get into it, guys, we always like to do an update. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it to Kenton, and then we're going to get right into business. So go for it, Kenton.
Yeah, thanks. If somebody knows that about streaming on the other platforms, we don't need 1,000 followers. Let me know. Because when I tried connecting and looking into it, that's what it said. But I don't know if you guys know this. I am not a pro on TikTok. So, so definitely happy for some help there. Yeah, please guys follow, even if you just like make a burner account and follow, because like it's just free advertising for us. Like if you really believe in THORChain, you want us to get the messages out there. I'm not pretending in the big grand scheme of things, maybe 5 years down the road, fine, we're getting TikTok and Facebook is working for us, but we got to start somewhere and it's free. Right, just to connect this and stream there. So, so that's great help, guys. Yeah, a little update here with some marketing stuff. I don't know if you guys saw my blog post yesterday talking about the new proposal logos. I feel like the response has been mixed. And of the people who are not in favor, I think half of them have just been kind of trolls, and the other half actually has some constructive feedback. And yeah, I'm a bit. It's tough, guys, because like it's going to be impossible to make everyone happy for one, right? So it's going to be who do we upset the least. The one thing I say, like myself and others feel pretty strongly about, is that we do need to update them. We need to fix them. If these current ones that I showed you guys aren't it, fine. But what we currently have isn't working. We gotta clean it up somehow. So based on the feedback, and I think somebody said they're gonna create some mock-ups to send to help for us to look. So this is good. This is why I bring it up to the community. We can all work together, like feedback, put it all together, right? We can come up with something. The last thing we need is for this to piss everyone off, right? This should be fun. This should be good, right? We're all moving forward. We all know what direction we're going in, and we're all on the same page, right? So one other thing I kind of forgot to mention about is too, is when you guys are thinking about these logos, you gotta remember, we have to appeal to millions of people across hundreds of different cultures, right? So and what that forces us to dumb it down, right? To kind of be a bit bland and ordinary, like it, because as soon as you start getting more specific, then we might start, dropping off, right? Some people, and for me, that's the one nice thing with green and blue is it's a pretty universal. Men like blue, women like green. Like it's pretty hard for anybody not to like those colors. Um, and then I do like the lightning bolt because it is simple. The other thing is, when it's if we put a lot of detail into it, you lose it on a tiny scale, right? So it's got to be something we can see on a very tiny scale. So we have to make some trade-offs here and there, right? So just keep that in mind, guys, when you're with your ideas and what you think we should do. Um, but yeah, I'm glad people are paying attention. I appreciate people's feedback. The discourse and the conversations in Discord have been great. People, it's been good. So I hope people feel comfortable coming in with criticism and ideas because I want to hear it. We need to hear it. Um, and so with that being said, I'll do a quick intro here of Andy of Liquify. So you see I got Kenton node operator, and I promote myself to THORChain community as a node operator. Really, guys, I'm a bond provider, and I'm working with Liquify and Andy to operate the nodes. So when I say I'm a node operator, I'm actually working with Liquify.
You're a
And
very good bond operator.
thanks. And that's how this relationship started. Is I started using Liquify to manage my nodes, and then I'm like, well, let's take this another step further, guys, and like let's run some more nodes, and I'll collect, gather bond providers, and we'll spin up some more nodes. And you guys are on board. It's been great. Denny, you're one of our BPs. I'm one of the nodes. Um, I like to think everyone's happy. I've not had any complaints, and I've had BPs leave other nodes to come to ours. Ours are pretty well run. There's no drama. I've had BPs tell me they can't get a hold of their node operator. And I mean, between me, you, and a few other guys at Liquify, like we're in the group chats, we're on it. If like we're always there. And so that's what I appreciate about you, Andy, and Liquify. Like you guys are engaged. Like you are THORChads. There's a Liquify channel in Discord. If you guys ever notice, sometimes in mainnet, Andy will jump in and help other node operators. So with that, maybe I'll let you take over, Andy, and kind of introduce yourself
Yeah,
and
awesome.
Liquify.
Yeah, I'll give a kind of a lowdown on my background, and then I'll jump into what we do at Liquify. So, I'm based in the UK. Founder of Liquify. I've been running it now for about 5 years. Prior to that, I was a software engineer for eight to 9 years, working with an automotive company. So I was there doing advanced driverless systems and kind of data pipelining on how data flows through those systems. So I was there, like I said, for 9 years. I then got furloughed during COVID, 2020 time. I started doing some freelance work, mostly around infrastructure provisioning for a couple of my friends at some foundations. That kind of got spotted by a VC, who's a good friend of mine now. They wrote a small seed check for us. I left my job, and I've been doing this since for 5 years. We're now a team of about 15, but we do things slightly different at Liquify. So we're a fully bare metal, self-owned infrastructure company. What that means is we basically own all our own hardware. So we own all our own servers, we own all our own network switches. We then co-locate that directly at data centers across the globe, which means we're kind of much more censorship resistant. We own and manage all our own infrastructure, so we can do what we want with our infrastructure. We're not kind of tied to these large-scale cloud providers. So we're much safer in that aspect. We're not going to have the same thing that like Hetzner had back in 2023, 2024, where they shut down 30% of all Solana voting power because they didn't want Solana on their network anymore. So yeah, like I was saying, we're an infrastructure as a service company based out of the UK. We're managing about 250 to 300 servers at the minute. We're doing around about 2.5 billion RPC calls a day for our infrastructure and managing about 250 million AUM in staked assets, be it for people like Kenton running, being a bond provider, or large-scale VCs staking through our infrastructure.
So when
Kind of a high level.
all those, so how many different blockchains?
We're over 100 now, so I think we're on about
Oh, wow.
107. Yeah. We've got
Wow.
quite a few.
And forgive me, can we just go back? You said, was it Hedera? Did you say who stopped supporting Solana? And what was
It
the
was
reason?
Hetzner, so a large kind of bare metal server provider. People still use them, but it's against their terms of service, so it's still a bit risky. They decided overnight that they didn't want Solana on their network because it used up so much bandwidth and it was rinsing through all their disks. So they kind of overnight just shut down. I think it was about 27% of voting power on Solana because they were all running
Wow.
on Hetzner. Yeah, it's quite a big
Wow.
thing back. I think it's end of 2023 time.
So but you guys ran a Solana node, right?
Yes, but we obviously run on our own infrastructure, so we're
Yeah.
resilient to all that.
And that's and you're providing RPC endpoints for THORChain nodes that they can't afford to run
Correct.
their own Solana node, right?
Yeah, so we obviously want THORChain to thrive, and the way to do that, one of the ways to do that is kind of increasing the number of chains that they're on. Well, obviously with THORChain price lower than it was previously, it's hard for these small indie node operators, which there are a couple, to run these larger RPC nodes, which Solana is one of them. So we kind of teamed up with THORChain, the foundation, to help support these smaller node runners by just giving free RPC infrastructure for Solana and Base and a couple other chains who some of these node runners are having issues running them profitably.
Nice, nice. I think this is important too because you run some nodes like for me on your own, and you're doing the RPC endpoints. So when the vote came out for Solana about which providers have how much percentage of Solana, you didn't separate the two. You counted them together. So the nodes you run in Solana plus your RPC add up to 20%. So you weren't doing just the RPC by themselves and then your nodes by themselves so that you could actually be over 20. So I thought that was great. It was really honest on your guys' part, helping keep the network safe, right? Not centralizing. And if everyone's curious, like between Liquify and myself, we talked about how many nodes should we manage, and we want to keep it under. Right now, we're under 10% of the network, so it's not like we've got like all these crazy nodes or anything. So if something ever happens to Liquify or whatever, it shouldn't be catastrophic to the network. So another thing, Andy, I don't know if you remember this, but when I was kind of anyone I talked to about working with in THORChain, one of the questions I asked them is their views on censorship and Monero and privacy. And when I was talking to some node operators, potential node operators I want to work with, I'm like, what is your view on Monero, adding Monero to THORChain? Are you going to piss your pants? Are you going to run away? Whatnot. And maybe I'll ask you again, Andy, what are your views on adding Monero to THORChain as an actual node operator, someone you're doxed, you have an entity. Are you comfortable with it? Are you okay with it?
Yeah, I was speaking to you about this before. So basically, we're obviously a registered company in the UK, which means we've got to comply with UK legal laws. Those being, if we're told that we can't run the infrastructure, then we won't run the infrastructure. So we're happy as a company to run it, as long as we're not told we can't run it by kind of governing bodies in the UK. So we're happy to run it internally until we're told that we're not allowed to, if that ever does happen.
And that's great. I think that's awesome. Like I mean, it's to each their own how people want to, what people need to do to make themselves feel safe, right? It's not up for any of us to judge. But that's for me, that's how I view it as well. Like kind of like, don't ask for permission, beg for forgiveness. And like, we're going to get a cease and desist first. They're going to say, hey, you guys can't do this anymore. You got to stop. All right, fine. It's only when you like, F you, I'm going to keep doing it anyway, fuck them, screw the system. All right, fine. Then you're going to start getting into trouble. Yeah, so to my knowledge, when I've talked to lawyers in the past, that they've never heard of any of actual miners or node operators ever being given a cease and desist, ever being told to stop doing anything. So, I mean, knock on wood, something so it doesn't happen, right? But I love it. I love that you're not front running the law, right? Let the law, just because the law talks to us, doesn't mean we're in trouble or did anything bad or wrong, right? So
And it's still an unregulated space. There's grey areas everywhere. So
yeah,
yeah,
until there's clarity, you just keep doing it, right?
exactly.
And it's not like the other thing is intent, right? We're
Yeah,
not intending to hurt anyone or anything like that. So no, it's great. It's really refreshing to hear because it's good. That was a big reason why I decided to work with you guys, and then me being a fund, I did kind of want to work with someone docs. We have an agreement together type thing.
yeah, it makes sense.
For
You-
my
You're
investors.
you're effectively giving collateral on a network that can get slashed. So you want to know who you're dealing with in this sense.
Yeah, yeah. And I've talked about this in the past. Like, by no means, guys, am I saying all node operators should be docs or anything like that. But for my situation, for Andy's, this works well for us.
Yeah,
And and you guys being docs, I think, does help add a layer of safety that you can be trusted. So it's great. Patriot, did you want to jump in?
I actually have a question from the
Oh, okay.
audience here. I'm going to put it on the screen here for you, Andy. Are you guys personally invested in THORChain Rune within the company as well?
correct. Yeah, we are. And myself personally, I own Rune as a kind of personal investment. So we've been working with the foundation at Rune since 2023. We took over a dashboard from them. We improved that. We also gave infrastructure grants, so we run some public RPC and public infrastructure for them. We've never actually sold that grant we got. We've held it, we've staked it in our own nodes, and yeah, so we are personally invested. I very much believe in Rune. I love the team behind Rune, so yeah.
There
And
you
then
go, guys.
personally, I've got
Well, we got a THORChat here, you guys. We have a whole team of THORChats. I love that. Yeah, I did have a question. My own question is, your hardware, is it, you don't have to tell me where it is, but is it distributed all over the world, or is it all located in the UK, or,
correct. Yeah. So
maybe you can talk about that?
we run out of 7 different data centers. So we've got 2 based in the UK, 1 in Germany, Japan, Singapore, and US East and US West. So we're fairly geodiverse. We span 3 different continents.
Nice. Okay. And would you guys ever consider, just depending, like, who, I'm not going to say specific situations, but do you guys have like contingencies if you feel like, well, maybe we should switch jurisdictions or whatever, something like that? So maybe you can speak to that what question? 'Cause I get that a lot.
In terms of where our infrastructure is hosted or where the company's based.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the parent, the country of which your entity is
Yeah,
legally
it's
subscribed
it's
to.
been something we've thought about in the past for kind of tax incentives, obviously, but we've got quite a few benefits being a UK company employing UK people. We can claim tax credits back on those people. So currently it makes sense for us to stay in the UK, but we are open to exploring other opportunities in the future. But currently we're happy where we are.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. Well, that sounds great to me. So, okay, guys, so we got it here. We have Liquify here. Bunch of THORChats. They also help, maintain the network, which is really awesome. And they're also interested in not becoming a super majority of the network or a significant plurality of the network in any way that harms the network. So that's freaking awesome. So maybe, Andy, I'll kick it to you. Maybe you maybe want to talk more about the services that you provide or plan on providing. I'll just kick it to you and see where it goes from there.
Yeah. So, like I said, we work a lot with foundations, so we're a very large RPC provider. We're doing around about 2.5 billion RPC calls per day, like I mentioned, across our infrastructure. So we're expanding that.
Can you put that? Sorry to interrupt you, Andy. Can you put that in the context? That I have no idea. What is that like? Does that put you in the top 10? Are you
It's
top
it's kind of
100?
it's hard to say. We're probably up there with the top 10 in terms of throughput that we do. I think when I was speaking to Infura back in probably a couple of years ago, they're doing around about 5 to 6 billion a day on Ethereum. So we're not too far away from them. We
Wow.
obviously catered a lot more to the kind of long tail chains, doing 100 plus. But we work with Infura's DIN, actually, one of their main providers there, in supporting a couple of the networks on there.
How long has Infura been around?
2017, I'm going to say. 2017,
Okay, yeah.
2018.
So they've been around basically twice as long as you.
Yeah.
So good. That's great. Good for you guys. Okay, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of things in the pipeline as a company. We've got a new indexer coming. We've had a lot of requests for indexing data from prediction markets, actually. So we're looking at doing a Polymarket indexer first, which will allow anyone to query data from Polymarket in a unified API. So that'll be quite exciting when that comes in the next kind of 2 to 3 months. Then we've got our own internal indexer where we're indexing any EVM chain and giving an API, a unified API across every chain. So you can do kind of very kind of granular data analytics on activities on a chain by chain basis. So that'll be quite exciting as well. And then we're looking to kind of expand to more regions with our infrastructure. So we've been thinking about kind of Oceania or South American regions where we're not currently hosted. So that's probably something later on, maybe Q3, Q4, we're going to explore that opportunity. And then we're also doing a lot more with THORChain at the minute. We've got a couple of PRs actually in, which are going in for 3.17. And we're kind of taking over more RPC public infrastructure there for them. So I can kind of touch on those in a bit if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so we've got a couple, like I said, in. So one's going back to the kind of the points Kenton made earlier around external external RPC infrastructure around THORChain. So for Solana, they had to vote on Mamiya's to see which node operator we're using as a kind of provider for Solana. So I wanted to kind of streamline that process for any future chains going forward. So there's actually, I've made a new endpoint on top of Bifrost, which will show what provider each operator is connected to. So there's no longer need to do those voting on chain. So that kind of increases transparency around there. We've also got Ash, who does our research based. He's just finishing off batch BTC outbounds. And that's going to be quite a big kind of saving on terms of fees. I think he ran some analysis on that between November 24 to November 25, and it would have saved the network around about $450,000 just the BTC fees doing batched outbounds. So I believe that's going in 3.17 as well. And then I've got a couple of kind of small quality of life improvements for node operators. So it's again kind of going back to this approach of using external providers. So I'm adding a new load balancer inside of Bifrost to do kind of more advanced failover. So you can have multiple kind of providers in your configuration as your node operator, and then it'll fall back to the most performant one. So if any of the providers go down, it will automatically route to a different provider. So it kind of takes the stress away from the node operator having to manually juggle external endpoints around. So that'll be quite exciting as well. And there's a couple of other small quality of life improvements going. Yeah.
I have a question about batch. So the batch transactions, the batch outbounds, that's like taking. Is it like collecting multiple UTXOs, putting them all in one transaction?
Correct. Yeah. So currently you've got one outbound goes to one swap, effectively, or one cross-chain swap. So it batched. I can't remember the exact number that he was batching together. I think it was around about 4 to 8. So it will batch multiple transactions into one single outbound. So you've then kind of collecting, you're kind of squashing those fees down into a single transaction from 8+ transactions.
Is why 4 to 8? Is there like a limit?
I can't remember the actual reasoning behind that. I'll have to speak to Ash afterwards, but I'm sure he'll give a lot of information on that.
I'm assuming or guessing something to do with time.
I think it was to do with the memo sizes, and that you couldn't get fit past that in the memo sizes. But
okay, gotcha. So when you said the network would have saved 450 grand, is that so if where would that 450 grand go if we saved it? Is that like extra yield to nodes and pools then?
Yeah, it'd be yield, or it would be passed back to the people actually doing swaps across the network.
The actual user would save a little bit extra.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, I missed that pop-up. What was that?
Oh, that was me. That was someone just saying, man, you guys are actively doing THORChain. You're developing on THORChain. They said, that's epic. So that's awesome. Like, it is epic. I mean, this is what I always wanted, right? Like, to have a a bunch of different groups all collaborating on THORChain to make it better, and you're incentivized to make it better, right? I mean, if the node
Exactly.
operator's job is easier, your job's easier as well. But we also can then make the lives of other node operators better, because even though they're technically competition, we want them to be stable, because without them, we're not decentralized. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting thing we have here. I love thinking about it. So hats off to you. But since we're talking about node operators, just real quick, guys, we made a video on the various dashboards, and on the day we were doing the video, I learned and we featured your guys's. It's like a Thor node dashboard. Are you okay if I put up on the screen for
Yeah, of
people to
course.
see?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do that right now. And this is something really, really cool. And maybe you can talk about it here. But so, from my understanding, this is like specifically geared to node operators, right, to make their lives easier. So maybe Andy, I'll kick it back to you. You can tell us more about it, and I'll just slowly scroll around.
It kind of stemmed originally, like I said, from a grant that we took from the THORChain guys back in 2023. So they had a very rudimentary dashboard to do kind of display individual nodes and how they're performing, on whether they're lagging behind on observations and so on. So we took that off them, we reskinned it, gave it a whole new backend, increased its performance kind of significantly. And this is kind of our version 2 of it, so it's a reskin. It's a lot more modular as well. So we've got a few new pages actually coming shortly. We want it to be a kind of a node operator's go-to in kind of managing nodes as well. So there's another kind of improvement to the network, which I spoke to Chad about a few weeks ago, which needs doing. I can kind of touch on that a bit later. So we wanted it to kind of be an easy overview for node operators to quickly glance at and spot if there's any issues on their nodes happening. You can also do.
Sorry, Andy. Is storenode.network? That's the URL.
Network, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna post it for you guys.
It's also on the back end. It's got an API which indexes all historical data to do with node operators. So if you press on, for example, where the underline is on all those columns, so like the rune one, if you press on that, it will give you if you scroll to where the bond is, the bond column.
I'm looking. Okay, right here, bond. Yeah.
Yeah, if you press on that number, it will give you all the historic data attached to that, and that's an open source public API as well, which we shared with the
wow, look
community.
at that.
So
that's pretty cool, and you can download it right here. Awesome. I'll do that again.
Yeah, so we've indexed basically everything to do with node operators, the performance, rewards, slashes, bonds, so you can get a churn by churn API to query all that data in a very fast way. So I can share that after the call, the API as well. It's used by I think about 15 different external companies as well.
Nice. Okay, so if a node operator here is watching this, or they're going to watch the recording this video, like maybe just crystallize the pitch them, like, you know, what maybe are they missing out by not using this THORnode.network thing relative to maybe another dashboard that they're using?
Yeah, so our one also, you can do you can generate reports from it, which hasn't really been done on any other dashboard. So you can create a report between 2 different churns. You can export that report as a CSV or as a PDF. You can also get reports per bond provider as well, so you can get kind of I guess a tax overview on your earnings from that node as well, which hasn't been done on any other dashboard. We're also doing, like I kind of touched on before, so we're looking at ways to do more management tasks through our dashboard too, so you can kind of whitelist bond providers, request to leave, unbond certain bond providers as well. So that's something we're looking at doing. It's nearly there, but there's a few kind of security improvements that we want to do on the network first. So we currently, each node operator has a node operator address which manages those nodes. So in terms of a company like ours, where we've got multiple employees, we have to limit that key to only specific employees which have high-level security clearance within our company, because that key is kind of responsible for that node. So we're looking at ways of doing a delegated key base. So you can have your main node operator key, which you then can delegate permissions for certain requests on the network. So you could delegate a specific key which has access to add bond providers, for example. So then you could use that key on our dashboard, or if you're a larger organization, you can you can kind of delegate permissions to employees. So you don't have this one key
Those
managing the whole node.
Okay, so those permissions are basically the Mimirs, is my understanding correct?
Yes, they could be voting on Mimirs, or they could be, like I said, whitelisting bond providers, removing bond providers, requesting a node to leave a churn, requesting a node to leave the network completely. So you can kind of limit exposure of that key to do certain tasks, which then we could open up our dashboard to do bond provider tasks, which would be quite interesting as well. Because at the minute,
that is pretty cool.
At the minute, everyone's using custom memos in various THORChain wallets that they're using, so it kind of makes it a lot easier to manage those tasks.
Right. And, you know, the thing that gets me, you guys, is just by hearing what you're explaining, the things that are coming, the PRs, and it just seems like THORChain is really grown in maturity. And it's just becoming this infrastructure. It is infrastructure, but it's just becoming so practical, much easier to use. We are simplifying everything. It makes me extremely bullish on THORChain, particularly when we have teams like you, Andy, just helping to make it better. And
it's cemented itself now, hasn't it? It's been around a long time, and now you're getting all these external contributors to the network and improving it, taking it to that next level, I guess.
Yeah, it's cemented itself, and there's incentives for people like you to improve it, right? I mean, it just works. It's fantastic, awesome. Okay, Kenton, I want to kick it to you. Did you have anything you want to add to that?
No, it's been great. I was just so the THORnode.network site. You guys are working on like updating it. You're gonna
yes. So we've got a lot of new pages coming actually. Hopefully next week they'll be live.
Oh, nice.
Okay. And then we'll have this. Cool. Hopefully this kind of node operator management once this change I've mentioned is fully scoped out and live on the network.
Okay, so if there's node operators out there and they want to enjoy your services, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Email for our website. We've got contact forms on there, or just via Twitter.
And that's the email is on liquify.com, is that right?
Yep. So it's contact@liquify.io.
Contact@liquify.io. Perfect.
Yeah, or .com.
Okay.
Either.
Or .com. Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, well, this is great, man. I absolutely love this. I think what you guys are doing is fantastic. It's awesome. And, you know, maybe like to make it a little personalized here. Like, you guys are actively improving THORChain. You have these PRs you talked about, but like, if you had a magic wand, right? Like, what do you really want to fix after these PRs? What would you really like to see that would improve the network? Would you say?
That's a difficult one.
Fundamentals. Do you maybe more decentralized, or anything?
I think they're going in the right step on adding more chains. So I think the kind of more scope that we have in terms of cross-chain, the better. I think THORChain should be everywhere. Basically, it does a really good job of doing what it does. So it should be on every chain, which I believe they've got quite a few coming up. So that'll be exciting to see as well. And with these kind of new improvements I was talking about to the load balancers, it makes node operators' lives a lot easier as well in kind of incorporating new chains.
Well, I think you actually make it easy for them. Like it's a whole different ball game for new node operators, right? I mean, like 2021 node operating is yeah. So, Kenton, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
No, is it fair to assume, Danny, that Liquify, you guys will be able to support any new chain that comes on? You'll be able to run a full node for that chain. That's your intention.
Yeah.
So, like, this has been kind of a, I don't want to say like hot topic, but a little bit of a debate or concern is that when THORChain adds a new chain, like the nodes have to run that full node. And so like for an independent node operator, a guy doing it at home type thing, that starts becoming more demanding on physical hardware and needs to support it. Do you I know Solana is a huge lift, but what about all these other chains that are coming, like THORChain, Sui, Cardano, Zcash, like Tau, BitTensor, but some people want. Do you think the small guys, like the up and coming node operators, will be able to handle all those full nodes themselves, or is it we're gonna have more situations like Solana where we're gonna be needing Liquify to provide RPC endpoints for them?
I think that will be the case, particularly on some of those networks that you mentioned. SUI's quite a heavy lift in terms of RAM usage. For a start, I mean, they need I think it's 64 gigabytes plus up to about 28 gigabytes. So it's quite a big node. Cardano is also quite large.
So that's of RAM,
Yes, of RAM. They're quite.
and
It's quite a
now
heavy node.
we're competing with AI
Yeah,
because like RAM is gone through the
everything's
roof.
getting more expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
So
sorry.
yeah, I guess we could maybe mention that the kind of opt-in chains would also
Yeah.
be a very good benefit for THORChain in terms of scaling additional networks, having the ability.
That
to,
was my next question.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So you are bullish on that premise. You think opt-in chain clients is probably the way to go.
Yeah. As long as it doesn't affect the security of the network. Yes.
And maybe we should just kind of help the audience if they don't know what that means. Do you want to go over it, Patriot, or?
Yeah. So right now, guys, the nodes essentially, but okay, the original ethos of THORChain was the nodes have to run a daemon of every single real layer one. And on THORChain, for those who don't, it's real layer one to layer one, permissionless, non KYC, right? We can't steal funds and things like that, right? It's just permissionless infrastructure. As we add more chains, especially new nodes that maybe only have one node, they literally have to host all of these chain daemons themselves, and there's infrastructure costs to that. And so you're hoping as a node operator, the fees you generate from being a node operator basically surpass that of the infrastructure costs. As Kenton and Andy alluded to, we now have added Solana, and Solana is, I think, the heaviest chain we've ever added, if I'm not mistaken.
It's one of the heaviest chains there is. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And of course, Bifrost, from what I understand, the Bifrost daemon, that's pretty heavy too. So there's a lot of heaviness that's going on. So now, because of Solana, we have switched our ethos a little bit. It's like, okay, we can do RPC, right, where it's an endpoint. But of course, this argument continues. Well, we're going to keep adding chains, and as Andy said, SUI. So that's the transition that THORChain is making. That we basically remove the idea of doing daemons only, but with opt-in chain clients. Now nodes can actually pick and choose what assets they want to support, which is going to be really interesting because then the APYs, I think, are going to vary wildly, right? Like if you have tons of Solana volume and there's nodes that don't run that, they're going to miss out on those fees incurred. So I think this will actually make the APY competitive landscape very interesting going forward. What do you think about that, Andy?
Yeah.
Can I add something though first to his explanation, Andy, before you answer that?
Yeah. Go for it.
Just to reiterate, the reason that each node on THORChain has to run full nodes on these other blockchains is so that they can verify independently what's happening on those blockchains. If all of the nodes on THORChain are using an RPC endpoint and they're all pulling the RPC endpoint, say from Liquify, that's a point of centralization where Liquify could actually screw us. Maybe they do something nefarious and they affect the data on that RPC endpoint, or maybe they get turned off. And then all of those nodes that are pointing to it get turned off too. So the reason the individual THORChain nodes up until now have been running each their own instance of these blockchains is to make THORChain secure, so that if one of these nodes, for some reason, something happens to their version of the Bitcoin blockchain, we've got 99 other nodes to fall back on. And using the RPC endpoints, we do relax that security a little bit, but it's this is the give and take that hopefully can get us going, so that as we grow, then the nodes that can't afford it eventually will be able to afford it. Anyway, I'll stop there. So sorry, Andy.
Yeah, jumping back onto kind of the opt-in chains, I think it's going to have a big impact on the landscape. You're going to have more indie node operators coming on board because their costs can be significantly lower than running 15 different node daemons, which it's a very good thing. You could have kind of you'll have more self-hosted nodes, so people who have accumulated 300k rune who want to kind of explore running a node operator, they can do it much more easier, I guess, than running everything in house themselves. So it'd be quite an interesting Interesting
I
change.
go ahead, Kenton.
Well, so will the people using, but if a node is using an RPC endpoint, they're still going to participate in the pool. They'll still make.
Yeah, so I was sorry, I was jumping back to the the opt-in chains. So
Yeah.
running the RPC endpoints, like you mentioned, we've got to be careful in how many people rely on specific providers, which is going back to that change I mentioned earlier with the new status endpoint inside Bifrost. It will give a clear picture on what those node operators are using, rather than being purely based on a Mamiya. So that'd be quite interesting to see.
I got a question, a little slightly on the technical side. So, we are at about 100 nodes right now, and we have an imposed limitation of 120. The theoretical limitations of like TSS, right? The Cosmos is maybe 240, maybe 300. Who knows, right? There's something there. I'm curious if we do opt-in chain clients. Let me back up a little bit. For every node that we add, if we have a linear increase in node, we have about a quadratic increase of the computational burden, right? If we do opt-in chain clients, does that alleviate it at all, or is it because it's that Bifrost daemon? Is that the linchpin or the you know what I mean the squeeze point for us?
Don't
Well,
quote me on it, but I think it will reduce the impact. But
Okay.
I'm not 100% expert on that. But you'll have fewer nodes doing observations on each chain, which I believe would bring down the impact. But again, I'm not an expert on that, so take that with a grain of salt. But that's just
Well,
my
that'd be
kind of high
good.
level.
Yeah, you know what? I'll
understanding.
run that question next week for
Be a good
Chad
one.
Bearford on Thursday. Yeah, that'd be a good one because I was just because you talking about that made me think. I'm like, well, there's
In
actually
theory,
maybe
it
some
should,
silver
because
linings.
you'll have less nodes posting observations on those chains, so there should be less overhead there.
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. Go ahead,
So
Kenton.
Andy, what's the incentive then? We go down this RPC path, and everyone's trying to be honest about doing less than 20% RPC calls to one entity. But what's the incentivized nodes to get off RPCs and to maybe one day run their own full Solana node? What everything's set up using the RPC. It's easy. It works. I don't have to spend the money on my own. I'm upgrading my equipment. Why would a node operator,
So
go through that expense?
there'll be a crossover point eventually. So we're offering free infrastructure for kind of small indie node runners. There'll be a crossover once if THORChain rises in price, if Rune rises in price, to the point that they're paying an infrastructure provider to manage their Solana infrastructure. Let's say they could be spending $500-$600 a month on those infrastructure fees if there's a large swap volume. Let's say. So there'll be a crossover point where their earnings from Solana outweigh what they're paying the providers, if that makes sense. So they can run that infrastructure in-house and save the fees that they're paying the providers.
So by you running the full Solana node, you actually are making a bit of money on the Solana side of things
No,
to
no, we're
provide.
not. No, no. I'm saying that at the minute with Rune price low, there's a higher overhead in paying those providers than the rewards that you're getting from doing the Solana observations, right? So if the Rune price increases, so they're making more money, they have a higher return on their stake. That will eventually outweigh what they're paying the providers to manage their Solana infrastructure, if that makes sense. So then they can run their own infrastructure in-house and not have to pay the providers. If
Oh,
you take
so
out the fact that we're giving the small indie node operators free RPC, so we're not here. If there's no one providing them RPC, they're paying for that on the market. So they're going directly to these providers and they're paying them a fee to do the RPC. So
okay.
eventually there'll be a point where the earnings outweigh that fee that they're paying, so that it makes sense for them to bring it back in-house
Now you're doing it for free now
for the small indie node operators.
for the small ones. Is that just kind of individual deals you've struck, or is it like at some point you're gonna be like, hey guys, the free ride's over. We're gonna give you a year or two or something, or wait till Rune goes up. But then we can't. We're not a charity.
So yeah,
Um,
we're currently doing it as a goodwill through the foundation, so the foundation's kind of subsidizing it on their behalf.
okay, got it.
I think that's great. Thank you. And I think that's really helpful to new node operators because the hardest thing I think is, become a node operator, you just need experience, right? And you're giving these guys a pathway where they can get their feet wet, they get that experience, and they can become competent in this endeavor. So I
And
think that's absolutely great.
it also unblocked getting Solana online, because we can quickly give people access to Solana infrastructure. Of course, you haven't got opt-in chains at the minute, so everyone needs to run that infrastructure, and kind of unblock that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. This
Have
is great.
you given any thought to the opt-in chain thing? So just for the audience, so this means a node. Right now, all nodes have to run all the chains that exist on THORChain. They don't have a choice. But there's I think this is going to happen. I don't know if the code is being written, but it's coming. I think eventually is that.
I think it will need to be there for the privacy chains. Going
Yeah.
back to what you mentioned earlier about being censorship. If you're running out of America, you might be a bit worried to run that infrastructure, for example.
So yeah, so nodes eventually are going to be able to choose which actual blockchains they want to support or not, and they'll be able to opt in or out of them. Um, where was I going with? I was going to add a question for. Oh, so there's so yeah, so with the privacy coins, for example, if somebody's really uncomfortable, doesn't want to touch it, they're worried about the possible repercussions, they don't have to. Node operator doesn't have to, but then they also don't collect any rewards from that pool. Um,
It might also be
yeah,
beneficial as well for, say, if there's a chain with low volume that was had relatively low yield, and you don't need 120 nodes managing the observations there. There could be some provider saying, "Oh, actually, the benefit I get from running this chain outweighs what I'm getting in terms of rewards." So them coming off that chain means that the rewards go up for the remaining portion of that. So there's kind of an economical kind of drive as well on those kind of opt-in chains.
do you, so I think that's great. We'll probably see some natural,
Yeah.
shuffling, right? Is there, do you have an idea? Do you have an opinion on like what's the minimum number of nodes we would need to see, managing a chain, right? Like what if we got, let's just, I'm making this up, just say Avalanche, just like, that's just not working. All these nodes are turning it off, and we get down to say like 7 nodes are managing Avalanche, like less than 10% of the network. Like, at what point do you think that starts becoming a security risk that, the less nodes they're controlling it, the greater the probability they could steal? Um, do you have an opinion, an idea on where that fine line is? And do you think we should like um almost kind of, I don't know, can we actually force a certain minimum number of nodes to
I
manage a
think there
chain?
should be a hard limit on the number of nodes in order to operate that chain. What that is, I'm not too sure on. I'd say probably about 20, kind of a full vault size. It's my personal kind of off the cuff answer. Obviously, that the ratio involved in how much funds are in the vault as opposed to how much Rune is staked against that, I guess. So, spitballing, I'd say 20. Obviously, I haven't done too much analysis into that, but I think you'd probably want a full vault's worth of signers there.
Do you think, could we run I don't know if some people I think have speculated that what if we get nodes that just join and they only want to do Bitcoin or Bitcoin and Ethereum, and they don't want to do any other nodes or any other networks, blockchains. Um, and then that just ends up diluting all the yield, and like, do you
I
think that could
guess
be a
you could.
problem, or it's just a free market? It's going to find its own equilibrium.
I guess that maybe you could do it a way so that kind of churn in and churn out is based on number of chains that you're observing as well. So, say if a node churning in, there's two nodes churning in that say they have the same bond, but one's observing 15 chains and one's observing 5. You give priority to enter the network on the node that's observing 15 chains, for example. Maybe that could be done,
That's interesting.
and kind of give it a kind of a weighted score based on the number of chains that they're planning to observe. If that makes sense.
It does. Maybe same with kicking it out,
Yeah.
right? Because we kick
Yeah.
out the
Same.
lowest bonded node. We could also kick out the lowest number of chains being observed.
Yeah. So that
That could be,
you're still preferring um, that node operators are observing the maximum amount of chains that they're willing to do. So you kind of you're less likely to get that situation where everyone's observing just one chain, which is the most profitable chain, and no one's observing the others, because you're giving priority to the nodes observing a
That's
greater number of
interesting.
chains.
Do you think there should be a relationship between the amount of revenue the chains, I don't know how you would do this, that are actually like maybe a node? So if you have a node who's supporting a bunch of cheap chains, but there's no volume, right? But then maybe there's a other node who is supporting lesser chains, but they're really hard to run, like Solana. Do you think there's some sort of like metric there that you could?
I suppose it would probably it'll be baked in anyway, right? So if there is low volume on chain, like I mentioned earlier, there'll be node operators who don't want to do that chain anymore, and then dropping
Right.
out of that chain means the pool of rewards for the nodes still observing that chain goes up.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
guess
that's.
it's
I think it
kind of a
works. Yeah,
baked-in economical
yeah, yeah. I think
factor
that's
there.
right. I think that's right. Yeah, that's interesting. I like that idea, Andy. I think that's. I think there's something there. I
I think
think that's
yeah,
not so bad. 'Cause you have opt-in
yeah,
chain clients. It changes the game theory, right? So
yeah, exactly.
we could make another. Yeah, that's brilliant. I like these Liquify guys.
Andy, are you familiar with Slambammer's proposal about not kicking out the lowest bonded node?
Yeah, I think I
Um,
saw that.
I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that. Have you? What do you think?
I think while we're below 120, below the max cap, I think it makes sense not to kick them out. Um, I can't think of any downside into keeping them in because the total bonded rune's high anyway. So, yeah, from my perspective, it's a good proposal while we're under 120 active nodes.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, I think so too. Chad Bareford did bring a good point, like that when you change things, it's hard to foresee the consequences
True.
of this longer term. But I think if because what we're worried about, what's the problem, right? We're worried about a bunch of small bonds get like maybe a node splitting all their nodes up into smaller bonds, and then they get more voting power, right? And
Yeah.
then maybe this is sort of like an attack vector. I don't think that happens if you gradually do it. Like if you increase
I,
the total number of. Go ahead, Stanton. What do you want to
no,
say
I'm
on this
interrupting.
point?
I'm interrupting you. Sorry.
I think if you do it very gradually, I think it's okay. Like if you go from like if we just increase the cap, let's wave a magic wand. Let's go up to like 300 nodes, right? We're at 100, and you say, and minimum bond goes away. I think that becomes a concern, right? But if we go to like DKLS, we have monovolt, right? We have one single volt, which is just better for various reasons. And then you increase the cap of nodes maybe like 10 at a time or 20 at a time. And then we have a community initiative where we're trying to bring new node operators on. I think that is safe, and that makes sense. And then maybe when you get to the cap, then smaller bonds do get churned out because then that becomes a metric that matters. But if we're not at full decentralization, then it's lax, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Would you agree, or maybe add or pivot a little bit, or what do you think?
No, I agree with what you're saying. That makes sense. As long as you're below that max cap, I don't see a reason on churning out the lowest. As long as you don't get rid of the minimum bond, the 300k, I don't see an issue. It's if you get rid
Right.
of that, then it becomes an issue.
Yeah, that to me, getting rid of the minimum, that's where you risk more about people
Yeah.
splitting up nodes for votes.
Yeah, you'll get people
Um,
clogging up every slot. Yeah.
and if you
Right.
have a multi-node operator who's going to split up their bond into multiple nodes to get more votes, like that already exists. Like you can already do that, and if people were wanting to do that, we would be at the cap all the time. Like, um,
Fair.
but like yeah, you'd still have some node. So you'd still have. Let's say I've got 5 nodes and I split up into 10, and fine, I might still have my lowest getting kicked out, but like it's not. I still have 8 or 9 in the network, right? I still have more votes than when I started with, despite me having 1 or 2 nodes kicked out of the network. So, and I don't see that. What I see actually is all the nodes trying to maximize their bond, which tells me everyone's actually pretty honest. No one's trying to game the system to get an extra vote. So, which I think is great, right? And it's just, yeah. So, um,
Yeah,
talk,
Kent, yeah, can I add a little on that?
yeah,
So I think this is, it's good to have some nodes that are anon. I like the single nodes that are, you don't know who they are, they're doing their own thing. I think that's great. But I also like this relationship too, because let's say a node tries to do something nefarious, right? Maybe a node. Well, we know, like, we're really familiar with all node operators. We may not know who they are, but we know their address, right? If they try to do something nefarious, like the reputational hit spreads pretty quickly in this ecosystem, and they can be identified as a bad actor, right? And so I think they're not only showing good grace. I think there is a very well understood, maybe not said all the time, mechanism. If your node is performing poorly, right? Like chronically, they're messing up turns, like they get called out, right? We have yet to see a node, as far as I know, do something outright hostile to the network. If that were to happen, I think the community would be pretty swift and brutal about recognizing this. And I don't know how we would respond, because depending on the context of the situation. But I think node operators kind of get it. Like, we don't mess around here. And our incentives really only attract good actors like yourself, Andy, like Liquify. I mean, you guys are good actors, and I really appreciate you. And I forgot if I said in the beginning, I have met some of the Liquify teams in person, guys. They are super awesome Chads. They are super cool guys. I mean, and Kenton, if we don't mind, I know, Kenton, you have to go soon. I understand. We are going to have BTC Las Vegas. We're going to meet up. That's the key, right? We're going to meet people. We want people to come. Please, if you're interested in coming, or if you're thinking about, just go. We want to meet you. I want to meet you. Let's form that relationship, that human connection that only makes THORChain. Where I'm going to kick it to you, Kenton, because I know we're running out of time here.
Yeah, sorry guys, I have to go in a few minutes, but I forgot to mention at the beginning about doing a meetup in Vegas Bitcoin conference. So yeah, we'll try and get something set up, you guys. But before I go, Andy, I want to ask you, just kind of still on this conversation about, if let's say we wanted to break up our few nodes into several. When you start, each new individual node has its own costs, right? Yeah. Like, it's not like you can have the cost to run one node. How do I say this? If you're running 10 nodes, is that like 10 times the cost of running one node? So like,
it depends on your setup. I know there are some people who stack multiple nodes on a single server. It's not something we do. We split them out for kind of redundancy reasons. But there are some people who stack multiple THORChain daemons on a single server. So it depends on your kind of architecture of how you've set your nodes up.
Kind of where I'm going with this is, if somebody were to have like 10 nodes at 350,000 rune each, like, aren't their margins pretty thin on whether they'd actually make money?
Yeah,
operating out those nodes.
Yeah, and your rewards are still the same, because you've still got the same amount staked. It's just spread across multiple nodes. So yeah, it'll be run even thinner, and you've got higher overhead on infrastructure.
So there is that kind of natural barrier to entry to try and pull something like that off. It's going to cost you money.
Yeah,
and
the only time it'd be beneficial is if you're above the max effective stake. Then it'd be beneficial for you.
Yeah. So I mean, what's
it's economically irrational, right?
Yeah, like what is a node, an entity or two really going to gain by getting some extra votes? That's really going to like make them more money versus someone else or something else. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying it can't. Maybe there's always been contentious things in THORChain in the past, but I guess it is possible somebody could really want a vote to go a certain way, and they go spin up some nodes to do it.
I suppose the biggest attack is if you take over the whole vault, right? But statistically, that's very, very difficult to happen. Because you've got to have majority share of that vault. So yeah, I don't mean statistically, it's a tiny, tiny percentage of that happening if you had 10 nodes, let's say.
For those who know, 66.67%.
Yes, actually you need 14 odd nodes. And then statistically, you've got to have every single one all in the same vault, which is,
yeah. Very hard to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Guys, I'm sorry. I got a jet, figuratively and literally. I'm going to go to the airport here. Do some traveling the next couple of weeks. So Andy, thank you. Thanks. Yeah. Denny, thanks guys. Obviously, please keep going. Don't let me end the party. And
the party keeps going, man.
Keep it going. Yeah. Awesome, guys. All right. Well, take care.
Cheers,
thanks, Andy. Thanks, Andy.
Hey, bye, buddy.
Thanks,
Take
guys.
care, man.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye. Yeah, Andy, boomer. What a boomer. Oh, you guys. Hi, everybody. We're back. Kenton made a grand exit, an absolutely legendary exit. He just wanted to go and he wanted to take us with him. So I love you, Kenton, but we can't go with you, buddy. I don't know if you know that, but we cannot go with you. So he loves me. He loves Andy. It is what it is, you guys. I'm sorry for that. I'm going to filibuster for a little bit more to allow people to. I've seen some people join already. Okay. That was very special, and I'm glad that happened because it's really
real
funny.
mic drop moment, wasn't it?
He mic rug, you know what I mean? The mic rug, everyone's mic's off, you know what I mean? Coke's gonna have some work to do on this one. Hope you're ready to put in some hours there, Coke. Yeah, splicing together there, Coke. Boom. Yeah, here we go. Oh, we got to rip on Kenton. Boomer moment of 2026. That is exactly what that was. He is an old man, you guys. Everyone knows Kenton is 97 years old, and he's on various medications to make him look young, but he's a very old man. So, it is us. But we forgive him. We still love him. He's just old. So, Andy, this has been such a fun conversation. I'm having a great time. To bring it back to where we were before Kenton decided to rug us, guys, we were talking about, decentralization and having various nodes basically split up their nodes to churn in, right? To get little nodes to turn into to capture network. Very hard to do. In fact, economically irrational to do, right? Because you're still making the same yield because your yield is proportional to the amount of rune you have in the network. It's all evenly allocated. So yeah, I you know what? I think that idea is really good, Andy, about what you said about basically having a new metric for staying churned in for opt-in chain clients. The more chains you support, I think that's pretty good, right? Because we're going to have to change the behavior a little bit, right? Because now the network's more complex. Man, there's something I want to think about this off camera. I don't want to filibuster by being silent and thinking, but yeah, I think you have to keep it simple like that because slash points. Okay. Would it just be oh man, how the heck do you figure this out? So if you have slash points, right, and then you have nodes, you would just make it a separate qualifier, right? Like what if someone had the worst amount of slash points and they also had the least amount of chains supported? Do you just combine the two metrics, or do you still just assign one and go for someone else, would you say?
I guess maybe you can have a separate churn out requirement. So the node, you're going to have more slash points the more volts you're observing, obviously.
Exactly.
So I guess it has to be I guess that has to change. I guess maybe a relationship on the number of observations in each volt, and then how many observations you've missed in that volt. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Slash points are kind of weighted in some way, shape, or form based on the volume in each volt. Because otherwise you could get, say you'd be observing, I don't know, a chain that only has 100 swaps a day. They're going to have very little slash points on that. So you'd have to weight that based on the total of observations in that volt, I guess.
Yes, because slash points then punish nodes who support more chains if we leave the behavior the same, right? Which is counterintuitive completely.
So you'll have nodes on only one chain who never get churned out because, they get churned out at age, and that's it. Yeah.
But they're not securing the network or facilitating transactions like other node operators.
And then we'll get into that situation. Like you mentioned, you'd have a kind of disparity on more nodes in the churn who observe less chains because they've got less slash points. So I guess you have to rethink a way of doing those slashes and make it. The way I do it, I guess, is you'd make it a proportion based on the number of observations you could see totally in total across the churn, and the number you've missed, I guess. So say if you're only observing one volt or one chain that has 100, let's say 100 transactions, and you've hit 99 of those, you've got 99%. But if you've got all the chains and you've done 1 million, let's say, and you've hit 999,000, you've got the same 990,000. Sorry, you've got the same proportion there. If that makes sense, it's kind of spitballing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then if you have let's say you have a chain, say like Gaia hard forks every 13 seconds, right? So like, if you have a chain that's just on the layer one itself, that really sucks. If a node who's running a bunch of chains, if they get a shit ton of slash points on that chain, those slash points affect the rewards from other chains, right? Is my understanding correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So okay, so that also brings in the question that the layer one actually has to be performing well,
Yeah.
and if you're a node operator and you try and support as many chains you can, and the game theory you could see chains get very unpopular very quickly.
Yeah, particularly the harder ones. Yeah, the harder ones.
Yes, interesting, interesting, man. A lot of things to think about. It's a really interesting conversation. Coke, I want you to clip this part, okay? Because I want to show some people this is an interesting conversation. Maybe they've already considered this, but definitely there's something definitely here to figure out because the game theory does change. I think significantly if you have opt-in chain clients.
Yeah,
Not
and like you
necessarily in a
mentioned,
bad way.
the whole churning is changed. Like you
Right.
mentioned that point about slash points, so that also needs to be thought about, and the best way forward for that too, which I hadn't really thought about before.
Could you break that down a little bit for the audience so that they know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to
So
slash points
it's
and churning?
more like you mentioned. So currently, nodes get churned out of the network. So by churned out, I mean not part of the active set. So they're not observing transactions on the THORChain network. That happens for three different reasons. So one being currently you're the lowest amount bonded, you're the oldest node, or you've got the most what they call slash points, which come from basically not performing your duties properly. So if you haven't observed a transaction, if you miss THORChain blocks, so you're not signing blocks, you accrue slash points. So the node with the most amount of slash points gets churned out. So it basically means they sit out of one cycle worth of observations. So they don't earn any rewards during that period. So if you've got the situation where you're observing fewer vaults, you're going to have fewer slash points, which means you're not going to be churned out based on those slash points. Well, you have to do a very, very bad job of observing that single vault.
Right.
So yeah, that needs to be thought about on how that works with opt-in chains. They may have already thought about it. The THORChain chads.
Yeah, they do. They typically are pretty good about game theory, but this is a significant. It's a big change for THORChain. Super big change.
Yeah.
I know the people on the app layer. Do you follow the app layer at all that much or
a little bit? So we have.
A little bit, yeah.
I'm part of the engineering call on Thursday, so I kind of hear some overview on there, but I'm not completely clued up with it.
Yeah, the one thing, and I'm not sure. I mean, the opinions vary on this. They are worried to some extent, like if you have the app layer and you have secured assets on there, right? And then maybe THORChain decides that you have, opt-in chain clients, like one chain, gets the boot. What do you do with those secured assets, right, in there? And so they think, well, this is a potential, risk in some way. I've given a lot of thought. I can see that point for sure. Honestly, it's hard for me to figure out, but I guess it depends as well because then you have to factor in because if we have the app layer, right, and okay, let's say the volume, then well, that doesn't make sense because on the app layer there should be volume happening on THORChain base layer as well if the assets are being used. So if a chain on the base layer is not getting a lot of throughput, it sucks on the app layer too, I think, by extension of that. So
yeah.
Yes, okay, so I guess that works out. Yeah. Okay. Interesting conversation. Gosh dang, I didn't think we're
we're getting into the nuances here.
Yeah, a lot of things to think about. Sure. Okay, very cool. Well, we're gone over an hour, guys. If anyone has any questions or like to come up, please, go if you don't mind posting those the link one more time for people. I'm Andy, but we've had a lot of people, a lot of cheering for you, Andy, and your team, right? I think it's great what you're doing. Is there anything else that you feel like we missed at all or that you want to cover about Liquify? I'm going to quickly check the chats here, see if there's anything that I've missed.
I think we've covered everything that I can think of off the top of my head. Yeah, kind of gone through on who we are, how we're helping THORChain, what we do external to THORChain. So yeah, I think we're...
Okay, yeah, I agree. I'm looking at all the chats. I'm not seeing people, a lot of praising, right? So guys, we'll give it a few minutes if anyone wants to come up and chat. But okay, but in the meantime, Andy, tell us a little about something. What do you like to do in your free time? Like humanize yourself. Do you like wear medieval armor and go fight, or do you like to skydive? What do you like to do?
So I like to do a lot of hiking. I do a lot of hiking around the UK. I'm a big walker. And then I like doing what normal guys like doing, watching video game, playing video games, watching sports, that kind of thing.
Heck yeah.
I'm a big
Awesome.
petrol head as well, so I like going and watching motorsport. I do that quite often in the summertime. Go watch like cars and motorbikes. I used to kind of do a semi-pro motorcycling back in the day. So
Oh,
I
really?
still like doing that. Yeah. I haven't done it in a while, but
Well, you're getting older, right? It gets scary
yeah,
when you get
when
older.
you fall off, it hurts a lot more now.
Yeah, dude. Like I now think like if I trip and I hit my head, I like that could be it now. You know what I mean? Like when I was like 16, 17, 18, dude, I just like fall down and just get like bounce right back up
Exactly.
like nothing happened, you know? Now I'm
Whereas
like,
now you're
oh,
out of
that's a
action for
long
a
way.
week. Yeah.
Yeah, I look at the ground like that's a long way down. You know what I mean? Dude, I love the motorsports there. I forget what you call it, but it's the racing. Like I seen the one guy that's like, what do you call it? It's on the tip of my tongue, but really fast cars. And dude, your racetracks are like so muddy. I love the guys that they're like racing and they've got their helmet on and they've got like these plastic.
Just rip them off.
Yeah, and they just rip them off. Right? I was in the video of the guy. He's like, it's so muddy. He's like, rip, 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 and he's just like hauling ass down the dude. I was like, that's badass. Like. That's some cool racing. We have NASCAR in America. It doesn't even come close to as cool as that.
You
like
just
that's
like
real
going left,
driving.
don't you?
Yeah, you just go left like for hours. You know what I mean? I mean, the wrecks are pretty epic. I'm not gonna lie, but that's the only reason why it's entertaining.
I can
right?
imagine the
Like, just-
atmosphere going to a live NASCAR race would be pretty fun as well, though.
yeah, it's pretty quick. I mean, like I've been to like some drag races. I have not been to a NASCAR race, but you know, when you stand close to the train, when you have those things screaming by it,
Yeah.
you know,
Blows your
don't-
ears out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like it's stupidly fast. Like when you're watching TV, it's like it's nothing. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, you sound like a dude, man. So I love it. Cool. We just got a regular guy being badass, just making THORChain great, you guys. I love that so much. I'm not seeing any requests to come up, man. So I think you've done a great job. I think that always correlates when someone articulates their position well and is good. We've got no problem, man. So, Andy, you have any final words before we wrap this thing up?
No, just thanks for having me on. It's been good fun.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for coming on, buddy. It's been great. Hey, guys, just as a reminder, we will be having, again, Chad Barraford on Thursday. Kenton is traveling, so he will not be able to join us for Thursday. So maybe I'll try and get another guest on there. We'll see. Maybe I get someone in the app layer. I don't know yet. But next Saturday, we're going to have a BTC OG join us. Adam Bitcoin, very funny guy, really interesting character. I've been interacting with him a lot few days, so I'm really excited to talk to him. So guys, please check out that. If you have any teams out there who want to be on the show and chat what you're doing, you know, Saturday we dedicate it to, you know, promoting you and learning more about you. So you are more than welcome. Just give us a DM, reach out, and we will get you on here. And always remember, guys, everything we say here does not constitute any financial advice whatsoever. It is just for just for entertainment purposes, okay, and educational purposes. That's why we're here. Andy, my man, thank you so much for joining us. If you get done with your Thor node, if a few months go on by and you want to do an update on the services you provide or whatever, just let us know, man. We'll do this again. All right?
Definitely. Yeah. Thanks.
All right.
Have a nice weekend, all.
Likewise, brother. You too. All right, guys. Take care, everyone. Bye, everybody.